In the next hour, we want to put a smile on your face, elevate your endorphins, and bring you happiness. Welcome to Say Yes, Be Happy with Nathalie Botros. We spend so much of our lives chasing happiness, it might just be where you least expect it to be. Nathalie and her guests are going to show you how and where to find it. And now, your host, Nathalie Botros.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. Welcome to my show, Say Yes, Be Happy, where each week we find the happy, the positive, the silver lining of our life. And each week I decide to take a different subject of our daily life. And this week we're going to talk about something very important, the body positivity, how to be able to love and accept yourself and your body and not try to fit in a cookie cutter. Could you imagine that approximately 91% of women are unhappy with their bodies and resort to dieting to achieve their ideal body shape? I think that's really scary. And then the worst is like only 5% of women naturally possesses the perfect body, let's say, according to American media. So today, to talk about this, I have a special guest, and let me introduce you to my guest. My guest, having struggled with her own eating, food, weight, and body image challenges, founded Shaping Perspectives, a woman way to joy, and wrote a book, The Body Joyful, My Journey from Self-Loathing to Self-Acceptance, which actually came out today. So we're going to celebrate that all together. She is the leader of the Body Joyful Revolution community, a global online source of support, encouragement, and inspiration for women of all sizes, shapes, and weights. Her mission is to impact the next generation by saying no to diets and rejecting society's thin ideal so we can help reduce body shaming, bullying, and weight bias. Please welcome Anne Poirier. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Nathalie. How are you?
I'm good. First of all, congratulations. Your book is out today. It must be so exciting. And you must be a little freaked out that yesterday we lost Facebook.
Yes, a little bit. But yeah, very excited. It's been a long time coming, and you wait and you wait and you wait, and all of a sudden it's there and it's out and it's live and it's in the world, and you freak out a little bit, but it's all good.
Exactly. It's all good. So Anne, let's start from the beginning. How did everything start? Tell us your story.
Okay. Well, it does start, I believe that there's a part of it is because I was adopted. So I was adopted, young at 4 months old, into a family who, a wonderful family, a mother and father. And I looked nothing like my brother. I was a little chubby. My dad used to call me the chubby little baby. My mother would call me stocky. Right. Stocky and sturdy, and built like a truck. So you get these kind of messages, right? Yeah. Early on in life. And really what happened for me was that I had a series of different messages that came in that I took. My perspective was that my body was wrong. Like I don't look like my brother. My brother was adopted too. My body doesn't look like the other kids in school. Something must be wrong with me. And one of the very first messages I got, other than the chubby and the stocky from my parents, was a nickname that the boys in the neighborhood called me. And the boys in the neighborhood are boys, right? 10, 11, 12 years old. And they called me this nickname, Annie Fanny Farmer. And so I write about this in the book, this Annie Fanny Farmer. I can look back at it now, and it's very harmless. It's just a nickname that boys do. But I took it to mean that I was fat Fanny. Like Fanny was the only thing that I heard. And then fat Fanny kind of put together with chubby and stocky, right? So there's these seeds get planted within our stories, our experiences of growing up. And then as soon as we have something that we're thinking about, our brain just starts to want to prove it to you. So you see it more and more and more. And that's exactly what happened for me, in that 10, 11, 12 age group. And I just went on my first diet at 12 years old. And my diet ended me up in the hospital with anorexia nervosa. So I had I just spun out of control with my own image, my own body image. And I hated myself. And so this dieting was the starting point. And dieting is a precursor to eating disorders and disordered eating. So it's important to kind of shed light on that too, right? I did have a great mom who really was religious on trying to find some help for me. So I came out of this eating disorder about 3 years later. I was hospitalized for a little while. And I got better enough, but the messages were too strong. They were too ingrained. They were really planted in my brain. And so I continued to struggle through college, in and out of dieting, one diet after another, gaining weight, losing weight, never feeling good enough. No matter what weight I was, it was never good enough. And, you know, I'm sure the listeners can remember a period of time where they look back, right? And they go, what was I so worried about? Right?
Yeah, true.
It's true, right? So this journey just lasted a lifetime. I actually went into fitness and was a fitness professional for 30 years, 30 plus years, really. And so that just fed my disorder. And I just continued to beat myself up, binging, purging, over-exercising, all of those things just to fit into what I thought I was supposed to look like, this society's thin ideal.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
It is crazy.
But, you know, like we all have, I'm sure like most of the women relate to this. I wasn't chubby, I wasn't skinny, but I started my first diet when I was 10 too. I was in a boarding school and I started because everybody was doing it. I'm like, if I don't do it, they're going to say, you're fat, why you're not doing it? So I will do it just to do it. And then later on, talking about eating disorders, again, it's my ignorance. I was like, okay, so I can eat whatever I want. And if I throw up that food, it means that I didn't eat it. So I would like force myself to throw up until someone told me, are you crazy? This is disgusting, you know? But I mean, like, this is like the kind of uneducated mentality that we have when we're kids. And then like, we hear all this, we see all these magazines, everything, and we're tempted to follow the latest diet or starve ourselves. And when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we only see a monster, which is totally wrong. And I think your community is helping kids, young women, to not have this formation, you know, of themselves in the mirror.
That's exactly right. Because we can only start to look at ourselves differently. It's society. It's everywhere. It's everywhere you look. It's everywhere you turn. You can't go into a coffee shop and have get a cup of coffee without hearing a conversation about somebody on a diet.
Of course.
Right. And so I think one of the things that really helped me in my own journey of trying to figure this whole thing out, I said, there's got to be a different way, is the research, the research on dieting. And anytime that we restrict our intake or diet, it just sets us up for failure. Because 95% of diets don't work. There's studies and researches out there. So why would we ever take a pill that would only work for us 5% of the time? If we were to take a antibiotic for an infection, we're not going to take the one that only has a 5% success rate.
Of course.
We're going to take the one with a 95% success rate. So why do we continue to turn back into dieting behavior? Because that's what society puts in our face and tells us we're wrong the way we look as we are.
Of course. So do you think that we all have, we should all follow the same diet, or we should all like define like the right diet for us? Like what is like the first step to get on the right track?
I think the biggest thing is to stop turning to the external, looking outside of you, to find out what's going to work for you. We're all so different. Our bodies are different. We're built differently. We have different genetics. We have different stories. We have different traumas. We have so many things that are different that it's starting to turn into yourself and tune into your body. How does this food make me feel? When am I hungry? What does hunger feel like? What does fullness feel like? Am I satisfied? Like all those little questions that we never even question ourselves to ask about food, because we think that we're supposed to be on a specific plan.
Yes, no, it's true. And so let's go back to your story. What was the trigger that woke you up?
It was actually, I know it's called the trigger point, right? It's exactly, that's usually what happens, right? I was in a hospital waiting to get a surgery on my knee. My knee had been hurt since college, and I continued to pound on it and run on it and make it weaker and weaker and weaker. And so I was actually going in to get a surgery so that they could help me continue to beat myself up. Basically, they were going to break part of my leg and straighten out my knee so that I could continue to pound on it and continue to be the fitness professional that I thought I needed to be, until they went in and saw that it was not a feasible surgery for me. So when I came out and the surgery wasn't done, and I had my whole life planned out, that this was the way I'm supposed to live, this is the way I'm supposed to be, my identity was connected to my fitness and my strength and all of those things that I held on to as my identity. And when they couldn't do it, I didn't know what to do. I was kind of lost at that point. And that's when I call it a step back. That's when I stepped back and started to look at my life a little differently. And there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a different way. This isn't working. Mm-hmm. This dieting and over exercising and beating myself up all the time isn't working. So what else is there? Is there another way? How can we change the way we see ourselves? And that's kind of the turning point. So I ended up going back to school, and that's where I learned about some of this research, and saying to myself, why didn't anybody tell me all of these things? Right? We don't know. We don't get all that information until we go searching for it.
Of course. So, yeah. Of course. And then we're so stuck in our image and obsession about the weight loss that we're okay, if I exercise all day long, I can eat whatever I want. We always make these little silly deals with ourselves. But so how old were you when you came to this realization?
I was 49. So it took a while.
Yeah. But until then, you were not an anorexic anymore. You were just
disordered eating, compulsive exercise, so depression, anxiety, those kind of different. I had different demons, if you want to call it.
Exactly.
Right. Or numbing mechanisms, things that I didn't have to feel. So I would just go running. I would just eat a bunch. I would drink too much. I would, those are the things that were keeping me kind of stuck in these patterns. So it was a long period of time of different types of addictions. And so I reached out for help, and I got a therapist to help me, work through this, and I get some medication. So it takes a team. If you suffer from body dysmorphia or eating disorders or disordered eating or yo-yo dieting, it takes, number one, a decision to say, how is this working for me? And do I want to continue to live like this? And then number two, what's the help I need? Being honest with ourselves, and what do I need? What do I need? Where do I continue to turn to get my fix on? whether it's dieting, right? Which, I would spend hours looking for the next diet, hours and hours and hours. This has got to be the one. This has got to be the one. This has got to be the one. Yeah. Right.
And then you'll hear about this, I will call them the little black dress of the diet. And you will hear that everybody lost so much weight. You will try. But what we don't know is that our friends or neighbors' diet can be our poison. Yes. I went to the extremity to inject myself with HCG or hormones. I was literally stabbing myself every day with this needle, and then injecting myself hormones, pregnancy hormones. So I know what you mean when we go to those extreme, crazy places, and then we think that it's going to work. And even if people around us tell us, stop doing this, we're you don't understand me. Right. It's exactly right.
We're in our own mind. We have our own minds made up that this is going to work. And this is what I need. Right. Yeah. And that's why we keep searching.
Exactly. My listeners are mostly, I'm sure, the parents. What would you advise them if they see some of these patterns on their daughters, on their kids, what they should do?
I think that's why the community is so important, right? The goal of the community is to start to change the conversation around all of this to create better role models for our young kids. And so taking a look at your own eating behavior, your own body image, your own self-talk, right? Are you looking in the mirror getting dressed and there's a pile of clothes on the floor and you're pulling at your clothes and you're, talking about different, I hate my body, I hate this part, oh, this makes me look fat, all of those conversations that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
That's kind of a light to say, hey, maybe this isn't great for my daughter or son to hear. Right. So taking a look at ourselves is, I think, one of the first steps. How is our own relationship with our body and with food and with exercise and movement? So,
and I think we shouldn't tell to our daughters, you should lose some weight, or, like, even if it's in a nice way, unless like she has health problems, we should really like avoid saying those words, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Disconnecting the body with worth and value and who a person is, because we're so much more than that. And yet in this society, in this culture, it's all attached to the size of our bodies, right?
Of course. But right now, like the kids, young women, they have access to all those social media, all those, like ads about losing weight when they take this magic or that magic pill. So how can a parent just cut that, like avoid that? Is there any tip that you can give? I know that it's a hard question, because I don't know if there is a way, because if kids wants to do it, they will do it. But
right. I think it's understanding what damage it's doing to them. And are there ways that you can limit it? One of the things that I do with all my clients is to clean up their own social media feeds. If you're seeing things that are continuing to make you feel bad about yourself, let's shift them. Let's change them. Let's find positive role models, find other things that are going to come into your stream that are empowering, that are supportive, they're encouraging versus demeaning and degrading and all of those things. But when it comes to kids, it makes it really difficult, because we can control what we can control. But it is about trying to notice their special qualities versus rolling in towards what they look like, or their clothes fitting, or how they're dressed and how their appearance is. Can we look past that and look at their talents and their qualities and their gifts? Yeah.
And if a little kid doesn't eat, shall we push the kid to eat, or we should let people, like when I'm talking young kids, like, like 2-3 years old, we should just like let it be and let them start eating when they're hungry?
Well, talking to them about what does it feel like to be hungry? What does it feel like? Are you hungry? Are you really hungry? Or is it just because there's ice cream for dessert that that's what's there, or something like that? So there's a lot of connotations that we have around food. Food's been used for punishment, right? No dessert, or it's been also used for celebration. Oh, you got an A. Oh, you won the game, right?
Yeah.
Or, oh, you fell and scraped your knee. So we have to try to disconnect food from all of those things too.
As a reward or a punishment. I want to talk more about this, but we're going to take our first break. We're talking with Anne Poirier about the body positivity, loving and accepting your body, and not hating the image that you see on the mirror, because like it's all about you, and it's the first step about your happiness. We will be back just after the break.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. I'm talking with Anne Poirier about loving and accepting your body and stopping that hate that we all put to our body, and, try to lose the weight and fit the cookie cutter. So during the break, I got a question. Actually, it's from Laura Clark. I think you know her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Tell the story about how you let your girls choose what they ate when they were kindergarten age. I love that you were practicing this with these many moons ago.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was restricted. So thanks, Laura, and hi. I was restricting, my parents were restricting me when I was young. And so when you have that and suffer from eating disordered behavior and all of that, food just, I didn't want that for my daughters. I let them choose whatever they wanted. And what was really, I think, one of the hardest pieces for me was getting together with family, because the family had completely different food rules than I had for the girls. So I have two girls, they're adults now, but it was, what do you want? Do you want macaroni and cheese for breakfast? Sure, fine, that's fine, right? It didn't have to be the way that society tells you you're supposed to eat. So that's one of those pieces where let's find a way to work with our kids so that we're not restricting and we're not pushing. Like you were saying, we don't want to be pushing them to eat, and we also don't want to be restricting them to eat certain foods.
So you will let them eat macaroni and cheese in the morning, and then they will like ask this every morning, because my niece used to ask white rice every day, every morning. And she will like, we will get that. Even when we're on the trip, we will have to ask for a white rice.
You know, if you have toast, so if you think about what's in macaroni and cheese or what's in rice, it's just a different form of a complex carbohydrate, right? So what does it really matter what form it comes in? Because a lot of kids have, well, adults too, I do, texture issues. So there are certain textures that, oh, I don't like that texture, but oh, I like that texture. I need something to chew, or I need something soft, or I want something warm, or I want something cold. All those questions we don't tend to ask ourselves, but they're really great questions to ask. What do I want? Do I want something sweet? Do I want something sour? Do I want something savory, right? What is my body asking for?
But if your body keeps asking for pizza and burgers, then you will have a unhealthy diet at the end. I mean, there is a limit. So when do you have to put the stop?
Well, I think it's all about realizing how those foods interact with you too, right? Are you hungry when you eat them? Are you enjoying them? Are you eating slow? Are you distracted? Are you just shoving them down? Are there people around that you feel like this is what everybody's doing, right? Or so there's all these other little pieces of information that we want to dive into. You know, our hamburgers, some people do have hamburgers every day, right? Does that mean they're unhealthy? It depends. We'd have to look at some of their blood work, right? And other things. It has nothing to do with, because some people can metabolize certain foods easier than others. So I really take a step back and take a look at what foods work for us and satisfy us. Because if we restrict burgers and pizza, what's the only thing you're going to want for the rest of your life? Burgers and pizza, right? If I can't have them, that's what we want. So it's how do we integrate that into our day? And then we talk about, is it giving you the proper nutrition? But as opposed to taking it out, let's see what we can do with it instead.
Yeah. So in the community, in the Body Joyful Revolution community, you teach women how to eat right, how to find their happy food, let's say. How does it work? Tell us a little bit about that before we talk the book. I'm very excited.
The Body Joyful Revolution came about from the book, right? Just knowing that we need a village because we're fighting an uphill battle. This is a battle that's been around for a lot of years. We're supposed to look a certain way. And if you go back even just through the 1900s, the ideal body changed quite a bit. Still small in stature, but different shapes. And so we're having a different conversation. So the Body Joyful Revolution is a community where we're changing the conversation around food, where we're changing the conversation around movement and exercise. Let's just have some fun moving our body. Let's not worry about calories or time or heart rates. Let's move our bodies so that we can live our lives the way we want to live our lives, right? Develop strength and mobility so we can walk the park or play with our grandkids on the floor or do those kind of things. And we talk about food in this real intuitive way. Let's tune into our bodies. It was like what I was saying before. Let's not look externally for how I'm supposed to eat or what I'm supposed to eat. Let's tune in internally, because believe it or not, our body will start craving salad or peas or broccoli or steak, or chicken or right. It just depends. Sometimes it needs a protein. And so it actually will ask, once we've quieted all of the noise around what society and our parents and ourselves have told us we should and shouldn't have. Right. We step away from the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and tune more into me, into what I need. And you and I will be different.
Of course. I mean, by our individuality, we all have different needs. I mean, we laugh with my boyfriend who, if we order pizza, he takes the leftovers, he orders like that huge one. And then he goes like, I'm on the pizza diet. And then when I see him again, like his stomach is like a little flatter. I'm like, what happened? Did you like started the diet? He goes, no, it's my pizza diet. It worked for me. I'm like, well, not every day.
And how long would that last? Right. So there's, yes. So.
Well, I think he will eat that every day if I let him. And he doesn't eat veggies. So that's like our biggest problem. But
yeah. So it's finding different ways to get veggies in, right?
Exactly.
So there's there are lots of ways to help us get the foods that we need, right? That our bodies need.
Of course. That way. So let's talk about your book that's coming out today. Tell us exactly. So what triggered you to, I mean, I'm sure that all this triggered you to write this book, but let's, what is this book about?
It is about, and I talked a little bit about it in the first segment, about these seeds that get planted in our brains about who we are or what we are supposed to look like or supposed to be. It's very similar to a family that is, say, in religion, and then the young people in their family are pushed towards religion or pushed towards the medical profession or pushed towards. So those are very similar. This is just a body piece that comes from just day-to-day experiences and things that have happened. What I find fascinating is no one's meaning to make you feel bad about yourself. It's all in either caring or wanting you to be healthy or not wanting you to be teased or picked on, right? So it's always, I shouldn't say always, but it's mostly done in love, but how we interpret it is different. So how we interpreted the messages that we see. So the book is about all these little seeds that were planted in my own brain to have me make decisions along my life that didn't really serve me. Although now I look back and they all served me, because this is who I am now. I've come through, I've hurt a lot of people. I've lied. I've done a lot of things that aren't good for myself and for others. And I lay that out in the book, and I see this connection of not liking myself. I use that strong word, self-loathing, because that, for much of my life, I would fall back into that over and over and over again. And when you don't like yourself, you make certain decisions around that. You're seeking attention, or you're seeking acceptance, or you're seeking something. So you make a decision that really doesn't suit you. And yet you still make it because this is what I think I should do, or this is what he says I should do, or she says I should do, or I want to make my parents proud, or I want to make somebody else proud, my partner proud. And so I make these decisions. And so I think that's part of this thread that strings this book goes through all basically. It's a memoir through a lot of my life, until I came to this tipping point and started to step back and go, wait a minute, there's got to be another way. And I just share all my mess, all my, the way that I moved through my journey and how I came out the other side, really trying to see things differently, and who helped, what kind of tools helped me and what kind of tools didn't help, to offer some different ideas for people and thoughts for people.
Of course. And so this book, does it offer some tips for people who went through the same? I mean, we're not going to tell everything about the book so people can get it, but like, does that give like little tips on how to manage and like shut up those internal and external judgmental noises about our body?
It absolutely does, because I talk about the voices in our head, because we all have these voices in our head. And I've named, right? I've named all of mine. So I have these voices that I talk about in the book that were my mini-me's, were my the destructive side. And then I had to cultivate a different voice, a more compassionate voice, a more supportive voice, a kinder voice. And so we talk about how to do that and what does that look like. And it's no wonder that those negative voices keep jumping back into the picture, because they've been around. They're feeling left out. They want to, make their voice heard. So that's, so I talk about a lot of different types of tools that you can use to stop and start to hear your voice and hear the way that you approach things. And that's one of the biggest tips, is how can we pause for a second and take a deep breath and ask ourselves, is this helping me or hurting me, when it comes to a lot of different things. And so there's sections of the end of the book where we go through, what do we want and how do we want, what's healthy for me? I ask people to define their healthy. What does healthy look like for you? Not for me, not for society, not for your parents, but for you. What does that look like? And so that's kind of how we walk through this journey. There's a little cliff notes at the end too, that people can take a look at the different tools that are there. And not every tool is going to work for everybody.
Of course. No, that's for sure. But for example, we're human. I'm sure even today you get like sometimes those noises. How do you fight them?
I notice them and I acknowledge them. I hear them. Okay. And my phrase is, oh, thanks for sharing. There you are. It's no wonder you're there. So I validate it. I hear it. I acknowledge it and I validate it. And then I take a deep breath and I go, not today. You can step to the back of the bus. I'm going to turn this way and I'm going to look this way. We get so tunnel vision in our thoughts, just like we do with other things. So we're widening the scope, stepping back, widening the vision, and opening up our eyes for something different. And that's when I recruit my little Maxine and have her come in and help me out a little bit. So, but I do listen. I hear them and I listen to the negative voices, because if you tend to try to shut them out, I think they come in even stronger.
Yeah, they get friends and they attack all together.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how do you help people to have the self-love and about themselves and their body? Because I mean, I've been through that. You've been through that too. When we look in a mirror, the only thing that we see, it's fat, it's ugly, it's a monster. I will think that I look like a monster. Although like, I'm sure I didn't, but it's how we feel. So how do you switch that look at themselves in the mirror?
And that's a really great question. And I think about body image in itself as on a continuum, right? One side of the continuum is this loathing, hatred, disgust, not liking ourselves or our bodies. And if we use this as just a body image continuum, one side is very, very negative. And the other side is this body love. And what happens if you're on the self-loathing, body loathing side, self or body love seems not even possible. It's just, that'll never happen to me. I'll never get there. And so what I try to do is pull people, slowly walk them up this body image continuum to a place in the middle called, and you hear a lot about it right now, body neutrality. And body neutrality is, let's not look at our body as good or bad. It's our body. This is the body that we are in. And what does it do for us versus what do I hate about it? If we focus, always looking in the mirror and focusing on what we hate about our bodies, that's going to just expand and get bigger and bigger and louder. And the voices get louder and meaner. Right.
Yeah.
And so pausing when that happens, and this takes practice, and this takes patience with yourself, and this takes compassion, all skills that we need to learn as we step into wanting to make a change. I don't want to hate myself anymore. I don't know if I can love myself, but at least I know that I don't want to hate myself. And so walking slowly up this continuum into a place where what can my body do for me? Oh, I can smell the coffee brewing downstairs, or I can hug with my arms my daughter and give her a tight squeeze, or hold my new grandbaby. Those are the things that we start to talk about. What can your body do for you? What are those things? And can we start to put a little bit more emphasis and focus on the things it can do versus all the things it can't do, or what it looks like. Right?
Exactly. Like go deeper about your body and its functions, let's say, like the love that it can give, instead of saying, oh, it doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the exercises I do is I ask people if they had one person that really, likes them. So, if Laura's out there watching, I know she likes me. So why does she like me? What kind of attributes do I have that she likes me, right? Or why do I like her? And when we do that exercise, and I ask the question, does it have anything to do with the size of their body? It's always no. It's their sense of humor. It's because they listen. It's because there's,
of course,
no, it's all of those other things. And to really start to say, wait a minute, my body is just my container. It's just the vessel I'm kind of traveling here in this world with. It doesn't define me. It's not my worth. It's not my value. Just because it's smaller or bigger doesn't make it better or worse. It just is that's its vessel. That's the vessel that I am here with. So how can I take care of it? Right?
Yeah, I love that. I really, really love that. We're about to take our second break. And when we come back, I want to talk more about this, because I have some points and I have some comments and remarks coming in. So I see you. I'm Nathalie Botros, talking with Anne Poirier about body positivity, loving and accepting yourself. I see you just after the break.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. I'm talking with Anne Poirier about loving and accepting your body. Just before the break, Anne was telling, if you have a negative image of yourself, of your body, how to switch it to a positive one. For her, it was to stop looking how your body looks and start looking, what can your body do? Give affection, love, care. And she was talking to one of our listeners, Laura, and she asked her, what do you think? Like when you see me? And Laura answered, she has a fun, energetic heart that she shares with everyone. That's what I love about her. So it's true that you have that energy. So there is one thing that I should add too. Let's be honest. If the last day of your life, the day that you passed away, people are not going to sit at the funeral and say, oh, she was a size 2.
Exactly.
That's not going to be their concern. Their concern is going to be, she was a nice person. She was loving. She was a great mother. She was, fun. So don't focus on it as long as you're healthy, obviously.
Right.
We have Claudia, who says, everything starts in your childhood. It's a tough subject to tackle. I'm sure both your attitudes put together is the perfect remedy. And she says the book should be a good read. Well, you have to get the book. We will put all the links. It is a good read. I had the sneak peek.
Yeah, I am really excited about it. And for the target audience, I think people will relate to it. So that's what
who is your target audience? Exactly. It's like only women or men too?
I focus on women. Okay. And it is about people who don't feel good in their bodies, have negative body image, who don't feel good about themselves, have possibly yo-yo dieted, right? And been on this kind of roller coaster, but seeing ourselves. I named the company Shaping Perspectives because we want to look at our perspectives about ourselves, right? Yeah. How can we see ourselves differently? How can we see exercise differently? How can we see the way we talk to ourselves? So once we start to do that, it does allow for growth and for change. And that's going to ripple out, that ripple effect is going to ripple out to our young people. If you're a coach, or if you're a parent, or if you're around young people, any of those things that you get to show something different and share something different about being you, whatever that looks like for you. And it is about, are you silly? Right? Are you very serious? Are you artistic? Right? Are you curious? Are you creative? And thinking along those lines and allowing us to completely see ourselves in a different light than we've always seen ourselves in. And that's, I think, what makes it so hard is if we have 40 years of seeing ourselves one way, seeing ourselves a different way, looking in the mirror and seeing something different isn't going to happen overnight. It is going to take time. And yes, I've had people say, well, my fingernail is good. I'm like, good, yeah. Let's start there, right? We'll start anywhere. It is a journey, and it is one step at a time. And it is not looking to necessarily love your body right now. Eventually, maybe we'll get there. But right now, let's just start appreciating it. And then we move into acceptance. And then we'll move in more towards, confidence and love. But it's a journey, and it took us 40 years to get here, 30 years to get here. We just need to be patient and give it some time and slowly move our way towards a more positive outlook for ourselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's so true. So I have another question coming in. Someone says, if someone comes to the community mm-hmm. and is overweight and it kind of like touches their health and loves eating, like junk food, how do you help them?
That's the piece, is when we come into talk about food and eating and weight, our society has said that if you are overweight, or if you're in a large body, I use that term, in a large body, then you're not healthy. And I ask people, do you know people in large bodies that are healthy? And usually everybody goes, right? Yeah. Yes. And there are people in large bodies that are unhealthy. There are people in small bodies that are healthy. There are people in small bodies that are unhealthy.
Of course, health doesn't have a size, but I mean, if that person is really unhealthy, mm-hmm. I mean, like unhealthy has like health problems, how right. do you like help them? We understand.
We take a look at what are the health problems, where are they coming from, and we look behind it. It's looking behind, because there's usually reasons for why we may eat a certain way, right? Emotional mm-hmm. eating is this past year and a half, people have been cut from their lives the way that they normally live their lives, right? So there's been a lot of stress. So how do we look at the stress piece? How can we look at some, the weight becomes secondary. We look at other health markers, of course, and we start to look at all of those things. And then, sometimes weight loss actually happens as a side effect of working towards other health markers, right?
Exactly.
But the society has said, oh, the weight loss will do it. And how can we, if we've tried and tried and tried and it's not successful, well, let's put that aside. We know it's there. It's still there, but let's look at some other things and other measures that we can start, what are health behaviors to you? Oh, it's taking care of myself. Oh, it's getting outside. Oh, it's, what is it for you? Exercise. Okay, well, what do you like to do? Right. So we dive in and we take a different path than the traditional, right?
Then the traditional, okay, spend a week drinking only water and like killing yourself. Although like fasting, it's good for a little time to detox mm-hmm. your body, but like those diets where you eat like only 3 carrots, the whole, Well, I advise my clients to actually, instead of staying in, to go out, because I think that when we stay home to do, like those diets, the only thing that we think about is food. If we're out, we're thinking about the fun. Mm-hmm. And even if we eat the pizza, we're not going to finish that pizza. At home, we will finish, the pizza, the crust, and then we will lick the box,
Right.
Outside, like we have like this happy moment sharing with people. So it will be completely different.
Right, right. A lot of times eating alone is one of those things that we want to take a peek at, you know,
Yeah,
like
of
not
course.
just eating alone, but because we have to a lot, but you know, hiding or sneaking or, you know, which I have done. So
I'm sure, of course. And then like, no, we say, I didn't eat anything today. You know, we know that actually you ate. It's snacking counts as eating as well, or while you're cooking, you know, look,
yes,
and then like
yes.
when they start telling like, but it was this, I'm like, well, actually you ate. Don't tell me you didn't eat, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, yeah, we have to look at it a little differently. That's all. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so we always take in health, you know, health issues, but we come to them in a different from a different direction than
Of course.
traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I like
so
that. So what are your hopes for this book?
that it gets into the right hands for the people who've been struggling for a long time, like myself, and who are deserving of happiness, are deserving to say yes to themselves, are deserving to see what's out there for them versus not say yes to experiences, not say yes to taking pictures, not say yes to meeting with friends, right?
Yeah.
You know, you think about your, the name of your podcast or your show, right? It is say yes to yourself. And that's kind of the first step on this journey, that I'm worth taking care of. I'm worth taking a look at and using, letting myself come first, right? It's that self-care adage, but that's been shoved kind of aside too for, I think, a lot of us. Oh, self-care is selfish. You shouldn't, you know, you don't
No,
need to
yeah.
take it, but it's really, you know, let's look at it all a little differently and start to
Be
take care of
selfish a
ourselves.
little bit. I mean, like
Absolutely.
you have to be selfish. There are some moments where you have to say stop and then take care of yourself. I think it's very, very important.
Yeah. How we can't pour from an empty cup, right? You've heard that
Yeah, I
analogy.
love that.
And
Yeah.
when we're empty and when we're giving and giving and giving, it's really difficult to continue to give. And usually our body starts to break down unless we're utilizing other methods, like possibly binging or over exercising or using, you know, drinking or drugs or, you know, other things to kind of keep us rolling.
Mhm.
And so we have to kind of just look at that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you had to tell our listeners about making a hard change, what will be?
You know, it's interesting. I always come back to this quote from Viktor Frankl: between a stimulus and a response, there's a space. And we have the same stimuluses every single day. And our response is very similar most days. If we notice that there's a space in between the stimulus and response, we have the ability to make a different choice. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. It's not familiar. And yet it's still available to us. And so that's, I think, one of the things that really helped me say, wait a minute, I'm tired. I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want the same responses of self-hatred to myself over and over and over again. I'm done. What else can be there? And then to widen that space so I can take a different look and make a different choice. So I think it's important to know it's uncomfortable. I think it's important to know that sometimes it's hard, right?
Yeah.
And that it's just because we've never done it before. It's like trying to swing a hula hoop around for the first time. It falls to the ground and it falls to the ground and it falls to the ground. So it's just being determined and that you want to change and to choose yourself, choose a change for you.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about.
I love it. I love it. So tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can buy your book. Tell us all the details.
You can buy the book anywhere books are sold. So Amazon or Indie Books or Barnes and Noble or any of those places, you can buy the book. You can also go over to the website, Shaping Perspectives, because we do have, a little buy the book button there as well. The Body Joyful Revolution is a private Facebook community. It's free. There's lots of resources, lots of stuff there and different conversations going on there. So It is a woman only, so I apologize to the men. We'll see if there's a Body Joyful Men coming out later, but right now it's for women. So women 18 and up can join the Body Joyful Revolution and see what's happening over there and get some information there too.
Yeah. So we will put the link so you can have access, join, and bring your daughters so they can learn about this, because we have to spread this message of body positivity. I think it's like it's getting out of hand, and I see all those young women, suffering from self-love and doing crazy diet. And I want to put a stop to that.
Right.
So before we go, I ask this to all my guests in a minute. What makes you happy today?
What makes me happy? This makes me happy today. There's a book coming out that's making me happy today.
Well, yeah.
That doesn't normally always make me happy, but I will tell you that sunrises and sunsets, the grass underneath my feet, the ocean waves, anything that grounds me in nature makes me happy. So that's part of who I am, is allowing those moments to shine in my life. And that's what makes me happy.
That's great.
So, yeah.
And thank you so much for coming in. Again, congratulations for your book. Everyone, The Body Joyful, My Journey from Self-Loathing to Self-Acceptance. Buy the book. It's amazing. And join the Facebook community. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone and to Anne as well. Again, thank you. My listeners, as usual, thank you for being here every week. And as usual, don't forget to show me some love on Apple Podcasts. Rate, comment, say how much you love me.
Please.
Yeah, exactly. Until next week, I'm saying bye. Have a great week. Bye for now. What do you have to lose? Say yes. Be happy.